Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special Halloween edition of Tim's News Explosion for this Monday, the 31st of October, 2022. I liked you hope the spooky explosion introductory video. I'm glad you thought it was spooky, Jack. We are live on the Wilmsfront YouTube, DLive, and Odyssey channels, as well as on the Interactive Entropy software, where throughout the evening you can send through a direct question, or even better yet, send through a super chat. Hello, Lady of Charlotte, and hello, Senator Slayer. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Victoria, where thanks to our time zone, we are among the First Nations in the world to enjoy this Halloween night. The popularity of Halloween in Australia has been growing, influenced in part by the shared popular culture we have with the British and North American Anglosphere. Obviously, the fact that it's a spring in Australia and up in the Northern Hemisphere, it's autumn. The Halloween fits in seasonally with where they are in their 4 seasons in a year. Obviously, it gets darker earlier in the evening then, so kids can go trick-or-treating earlier, while it gets dark at about 8 p.m. here, when most of the younger kids would have done their trick-or-treating. It's not very scary to do it in the light, but as I said, it's certainly catching on with a lot of the young people and children today finding the fun of it, but there are still plenty of sneerers and wowzers who claim we shouldn't celebrate Halloween because it's American, it's the commercial holiday, because now all the supermarkets sell Halloween themed candy. You have to remember, these are probably the types of people who dobbed on their neighbors during COVID because they've always hated fun and children's laughter. We need more fun in the current times, and Halloween provides that. One of my first articles ever on the Unshackled, as you can see by the date, October 30, 2016, in defense of Halloween in Australia. And I mentioned why it's fun and why we love a celebratory day to catch up with people, and I also state why the people who say the snooty people are wrong there. And it was good to see today that our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, got into the Halloween spirit. He was at a daycare centre promoting cheaper childcare. There he is with the member for McNamara, Josh Burns, and a witch. I think there's a witch costume with a pink hat there. Now, this is the first post-COVID Halloween where they are discouraging children from wearing masks. They're told that they can dress up for Halloween. This was one of the emails sent out to a school district. I'm not sure if it was in the US or Canada. It says, Halloween, just a reminder, Halloween activities vary from school to school. Some schools have family dances. Others may have an orange and black day or a costume day. If students do wear costumes on Monday, they must adhere to the school dress code, and any type of outfit that would impede learning or pose a safety hazard would not be allowed, i.e. mask. We want our students to have fun, but also ensure students and staff continue to learn and teach in a safe and respectful way. So there you go, 2022. They finally accepted that masks hinder learning at school. It's certainly a difference from last Halloween, where this was the scariest children's mask. A new Halloween mask depicts a human face not actually wearing a mask. And there were some daycare workers in Mississippi recently who thought that it would be a good idea to put on a Scream Ghostface mask in front of these young children. Okay, that's enough there, because it is distressing to see those upset children there. And now these 4 of these daycare workers, who the reason that they got caught is because they filmed it and uploaded it to social media. So 4 people were immediately fired and facing charges of a felony child abuse, while a 5th person faces 2 misdemeanor counts, authorities play. So the video goes on for 2 minutes, and so it has this is the mug shots of the childcare workers. And like, I mean, these, like, obviously we shouldn't blame the parents for what happened, but would you really want to leave your children in front of these types of women there? And so it interviews one of the parents, ABC News, Caitlin Johnson, who said her 2-year-old son is still showing signs of trauma, is difficult sleeping through the night, adding of the footage. It's no joke, and it's nothing to laugh at. Now, it's good to know where the line is when it comes to child abuse these days. That's the line, like dressing up in a Ghostface Scream mask to scare children. That's child abuse. I'm sure if they one of them are dressed up as a satanic looking drag queen to read stories with them, that would have been okay. And obviously during COVID, like a surgical N95 mask, that was perfectly okay to wear in daycare facilities and that. So yeah, so that's what there we go. That is where the line is in 2022. And I noticed that a lot of people in the home chat, this is a good reason to homeschool your children, or even better yet, don't dump them in a childcare center. Where, I mean, the only reason these women were caught is because they filmed it and uploaded it to social media. Now, I am wearing a Halloween costume. I'm not sure if any of you noticed. Can you guess what scary figure I am dressed up as? Put your guesses in the live chat, and I'll tell if any of you are right. Now, this Halloween, I should remind that the people who should be most afraid on this Halloween night is the unvaccinated, because vampires, they only want to drink pure blood, and zombies want to eat non-genetically modified flesh and brains. And also, it's important to have your children vaccinated, because then the Sanderson sisters won't be able to smell them, and also won't eat them, because their potions won't work on vaccinated children. But let's get to, well, where it is very stranger times, and that is on Twitter. With it's finally happened after many months. Elon Musk has completed his the deal to take ownership of Twitter, and he did not waste any time. He fired the chief executive officer, Parag Agarwal, Chief Financial Officer Ned Siegel, and General Counsel Vijaya Gandhi, who was the one who, made the biggest decision in Twitter's history to delete President Donald Trump's account from Twitter. And so Musk declared that the bird is free, and that also comedy is legal on Twitter. So he hasn't wasted any time. As soon as he got into Twitter HQ with a literal sink to let people know, to let it sink in. Now, there've also been there's rumors of other firings as well, and I couldn't believe that Elon Musk himself decided to, what I say, basically celebrate and humiliate these two employees that he fired, Raul Ligma and Daniel Johnson. He tweeted that Ligma Johnson had it coming. Musk has allegedly fired an entire team of Twitter data engineers as laid-off employees Raul Ligma and Daniel Johnson are pictured walking out of the San Francisco office on Friday afternoon. And they were certainly upset about losing their dream jobs to their new owner.
Michelle Obama wouldn't have happened. Elon Musk owned Twitter. Obama in 2008 wouldn't have happened without Elon Musk owned Twitter. You need free speech is when a public company, a public owned stock, not like one guy owning a company, But I mean, I even own a Tesla, man. Like, I'm a big fan of like clean energy, climate change, even free speech too. But yeah, software engineer.
His own words. What do you make of that? What do you think Twitter will look like?
I mean, if free speech is, Nazis saying that, trans women shouldn't, use women's locker rooms, then awesome. I guess mission accomplished. We'll see. Listen, I got to touch base with my husband and wife. I got to get out of here, all right? Thank you, guys. What's your name? Sorry. Daniel. Thank you.
They're clearly devastated, Ligma Johnson there. And as Brucey points out, the fact that they're standing around with cardboard boxes didn't make it obvious enough. But in case you didn't know, the hilarious troll that was just seen, it was a troll. These two pranksters, they just walked out of Twitter HQ with cardboard boxes full of junk, and the mainstream media interviewed them and took their word that they were legitimate Twitter employees who'd just been laid off. And Ligma had Michelle Obama's autobiography, Becoming Michelle Obama, which the fact that it was called that has made a lot of people wonder who was Michelle Obama before she became Michelle Obama. Now, Elon Musk, he has said that at current, the Twitter moderation has not changed. He's going to form a new moderation council to decide what the policy is going to be about reinstating suspended accounts. The most notable, what's going to happen to Donald Trump's Twitter account. Trump has said even if he's allowed back on by Musk, he's not going to use it because he's invested on Truth Social. But they've already been noticeable, even though Musk has said that the moderation policy hasn't changed. There has been noticeable more free speech, and although the algorithm hasn't changed because Tesla engineers are deep diving into it, I have noticed a lot more real news turning up in the feed. Libs of TikTok decided to test out the new Twitter just by tweeting groomer, 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 groomer. And the only people who cared were the German government. So got this email from Twitter. They're required by German law to provide notice to users who are reported by people from Germany via the Network Enforcement Act reporting flow. We've received a complaint regarding your account for the following content, groomer. We have investigated the reported content and found it is not subject to removal under Twitter rules or German law. So there, you can say groomer. Now, of course, all of the Twitter sewer that have ruled the bird for the past 10 years are very upset, and they have all threatened to leave Twitter. And but will they do it? It's a bit like none of the celebs and other lefties moved to Canada when Trump was elected president. Apparently, the one that some are migrating to is tribal social, and like as the name says, it's literally for people who have tribal politics. And libs of TikTok decided to post some things there, and this is this was on their Substack. I tried the left's new social media platform and was banned in 20 minutes. So according to Tribal's Twitter bio, the platform is an innovative Twitter, Facebook alternative that's free of hate, fake news, and bots. In other words, a platform to shield the fragile left from the pain caused by their own cognitive dissonance. And so I opened an account and posted a few messages. The first reading, men cannot get pregnant. Others included, men cannot become women and women cannot become men. And Joe Biden sniffs little girls. Immediately, the Ministry of Truth went to overdrive. Tribal users began reporting and even misgendered me. In less than 20 minutes, my account was suspended and I was banned from the platform. Tribal posted a statement categorized me as a racist, transphobic, bigoted. So much for Tribal social combating fake news. Apparently, men cannot get pregnant is transphobic. Biology is bigoted and racist. And it's a lifetime ban. So Libs of TikTok doesn't know if they will able to recover from this. Now, of course, the reason why Libs of TikTok became such a target of the left, and of course the Washington Post Taylor Lorenz, who is very triggered by Elon Musk's ownership, was the one who doxed the operator of the Libs of TikTok account. All it did was basically amplify what degenerate libs are saying on Twitter and what their aims are, particularly when it comes to the grooming of children. But some of these libs of TikTok, they don't need the Twitter account to amplify their message. Some, such as Dylan Mulvaney, become so popular on their own with 8.5 million followers that they get to interview the president of the United States, Joe Biden, for Now This to gauge his support for the trans agenda going into the midterms.
Mr. President, this is my 221st day of publicly transitioning.
God love you.
Thank you. I am extremely privileged to live in a state that allows me access to the resources I need, and that decision is just between me and my doctors. But many states have lawmakers that feel like they can involve themselves in this very personal process. Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
And it feels like Republicans have turned trans and non-binary people into this thing to blame society's downfall on in some ways. And this narrative is not only dangerous to our mental health, but also our physical safety. And particularly trans women of color are being murdered at an alarming rate.
More than any other group of people.
Thank you. How can Democratic leaders be more effective in advocating for us trans people and our families and our lives and our opportunities?
I'm not being facetious when I say this, being seen with people like you. No, I mean it. I genuinely mean it. People fear what they don't know. They fear what they don't know. And when people realize, individuals realize, oh, this is what they're telling me to be frightened of. This is the problem. People change their minds. People just don't know enough to know. And it's not because of, intellectual incapability. It's just lack of exposure. And I think that it's really important that we continue to speak out about the basic fundamental rights of all human beings. And the idea that what's going on, in some states, I won't get into the politics of it, but in some states, it's outrageous, and I think it's immoral. The trans part's not immoral. What they're trying to do to trans persons is immoral.
I saw Margot Huss, who says, well, I should say to her, welcome back to the chat. Lol, is this for real? Yes, this is a real trans woman, Dylan Mulvaney, doing an in-person interview with the president of the United States, Joe Biden, who I assume he was told by his aides to say all those answers to Dylan there. A lot of people were wondering, because we know that Joe Biden likes to sniff girls, whether she passed the sniff test, Dylan. Now, I'll play now just a portion of the videos, the TikToks that got Dylan Mulvaney famous to those millions and millions of TikTok followers, and that was her diary of days of girlhood.
Day one of being a girl, and I have already cried 3 times. I wrote a scathing email that I did not send. I ordered dresses online that I couldn't afford. And then when someone asked me how I was, I said, I'm fine, when I wasn't fine. So. How'd I do, ladies? Good? Day 75 of being a girl, and I've been carrying around tampons and pads for the past 2 months, but I've actually never opened one up. So let's do it. Woohoo! I thought the letters stood for small, medium, and large based on the size of your Barbie pouch, but after a Google, I found out it's actually the level of your flow. So they're super, regular, and light. I guess my question is, which one do I carry around? The super? Because maybe if you have a light flow, you can still use a super? I don't know.
Okay, how do you unpack all of that? I would all recommend to you Blair White's breakdown of Dylan Mulvaney's trans odyssey. Blair White, a conservative trans woman. Just my own observations. That's like, if you are for the entire of your life really a woman trapped in a man's body, like, wouldn't you already be a woman even though you haven't started estrogen? And so the first day of you identifying as a woman wouldn't bring on all of these new female emotions. I don't know, unless the estrogen had already made you emotional. And yes, why the hell are you carrying tampons, which, even if you have the downstairs surgery there, you don't bleed because you don't produce eggs like a natural born woman there. So I don't know why you're carrying them around. And also, I don't think that you are going to be the authority that women go to for advice about what tampons to use. So yes, that happened last week in the US. Now, what happened this week was the hammer assault at on Paul Pelosi at the Pelosi residence. There was a late night home invasion by Berkeley resident David DePape, and this is probably one of the best summaries of the whole story, not just the liberal media story by Michael Schellenberger. So if you don't know who he is, he's an environmentalist and reformed greenie. So Berkeley is in the greater San Francisco area. So Michael Schellenberger was just in Australia as part of the CPAC Australia conference. He has 2 books. One is Apocalypse Never, about that. It's about how the climate mass extinction is actually not going to happen, and also his latest book is Fransico, about why the liberal city of San Francisco is now literally a degenerate shithole. So yes, the narrative was Joe Biden said it was a despicable attack. And so law enforcement sources have alleged the attacker, David DePape, 42, shouted, "Where's Nancy?" as the supporters of Donald Trump who stormed the US Capitol on January 6th did. And so Governor Gavin Newsom said this is a heinous assault and another example of the dangerous consequences of the divisive and hateful rhetoric that is putting lives at risk and undermining our very democracy. This attack, said San Francisco Senator Scott Wiener, is terrifying and the direct result of toxic right-wing rhetoric. But DePape's politics have little rhyme and reason. In the past years, DePape shared a post about Stephen Colbert's 2006 roast of George W. Bush, linked to videos of Disney films, all to make it look like the characters were swearing, and claimed Jesus is the Antichrist, not exactly a litany of right-wing tropes. And as I discovered yesterday, DePape lived with a notorious local nudist in a Berkeley home, complete with Black Lives Matter sign in the window and an LGBT rainbow flag emblazoned with a marijuana symbol hanging from a tree. A closer look reveals the characteristics of a homeless encampment, or what European calls open drug scene. So according to neighbors, so on the streets, a yellow school bus filled with garbage typical of such structures, homeless encampment. People come and go from the house and vehicles, neighbors say, in part to partake in the use of psychedelic drugs. And they describe Pape as a homeless addict with a politics that was until very recently left-wing, but of secondary importance to psychotic and paranoid behavior. And so one of his neighbors said they seem very left. They're all about BLM, gay pride. They're very detached from reality. They've called the cops on several other neighbors, including claiming we are plotting against them. It's really weird to see they're willing to be so aggressive towards somebody who is also a lefty. Not all of the news media missed DePape's history of drug use. Another woman told CNN that she got to know DePape around 2014, homeless, living in a storage unit, used hard drugs. And so, yes, this is the where he lives. And his former lover, Oksane Gypsy Tub, 53, a Russian immigrant. So it goes further down here that 5 year Tub was in the news again 5 years later, when then 44, a 20-year-old man, Jamie Smith, they married naked at City Hall in San Francisco. And most recently, Oksane Gypsy Tub harassed a boy, 14, was wanting to kidnap him and allegedly bought sex dolls for her sons to use, and so was convicted in 2021 for child abuse there. So, and obviously there have been the inconsistencies with what you would think would be a typical break-in, because the call to the San Francisco police, Paul Pelosi said that he knew the man, David, and he called from the bathroom. And when the police got there, they were both in their underwear, and they were both trying to assault each other with hammers. And the assault on Paul Pelosi, who had to have surgery, was when the police arrived. And apparently there was no sign of break and entry. And there was shattered glass, but it was outside, not smashing to get in. Now, apparently, according to mainstream media, Paul Pelosi, he was talking in code to the police, and that's apparently why he said he knew David. Now, if he was wanting to target lefties, wouldn't he have known that Nancy Pelosi was in Washington at the time? That's where her security detail was. But even then, if he doesn't have security detail, Paul Pelosi, then wouldn't there be lots of security there, given that he is a high-profile spouse of the Speaker of the House of Representatives? And obviously, he has been making a killing in the stock market for many years, just miraculously picking the right stocks when the news eventually breaks about new information that makes the stocks go up in general. And of course, recently he was convicted of a DUI as well. So will we ever know the truth about the Paul Pelosi hammer attack? Will this guy, David DePape, will he kill himself in custody? That remains to be seen. Now, obviously this is a late October surprise with the midterms not tomorrow Tuesday, but next Tuesday, the 8th of November, because we're basically a day behind the US. We won't know the result of the midterm elections until probably Wednesday afternoon Australian time. So obviously, they're called the midterms because it's mid into a president's 4-year term. So the focus is on the various Senate races, because obviously the Senate, who has control of the Senate, well, it's just as important as who controls the House of Representatives. But because a senator is elected for 6-year terms, the winners of Senate races are more decisive about the makeup of the Senate. All seats in the House of Representatives are up for election every 2 years, so it tends to go with the party who does well in that particular election cycle. So the critical Senate races in Pennsylvania, so Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz of that reality daytime health advice show, he's up against John Fetterman, who recently had a stroke, which is being blamed on his poor debate performance when he couldn't answer questions and contradicted himself. Oz is up in the polls. So it's obviously, to make it clear, Oz is the Republican, John Fetterman is the Democrat. In Ohio, the Republican is author J.D. Vance. He's up against Democrat Tim Ryan. In Georgia, the incumbent Raphael Warnock is up against former NFL player running for the Republicans, Herschel Walker. And in the gubernatorial contests in Arizona, Republican and Trump supporter Carrie Lake, she is the favorite to beat Democrat Katie Hobbs. Carrie Lake's campaign had a huge boost with Liz Cheney urging Arizonans to vote for Katie Hobbs. And so Carrie Lake was very grateful for Liz Cheney's intervention there. Ron DeSantis in Florida, a Republican, is running for a second term against former Governor Charlie Crist. And then in New York, the former Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who replaced Andrew Cuomo midterm when he resigned due to the sexual misconduct allegations. She is neck and neck with Republican Lee Zeldin. So state of New York could go red for the first time there. So the red wave, it is still a very strong. Can it crash on? When I say crash, when I should say break. Will it break well on November 8th? That's what remains to be seen. And now there has, unfortunately, over the weekend been some actual real horrific tragedies. So there was the Halloween crowd crush in Seoul, South Korea. 154 were killed, including one Australian. 133 were injured. There was also the collapse of a just reopened footbridge in Morbi, India. 135 killed, 180 rescued. And then there was a car bombing in the capital of Somalia in Mogadishu. 100 killed, 300 injured. And at the beginning of October, there was another mass casualty event, the Kanarahan Stadium disaster in Indonesia on October 1, where there was a riot post the game, and there was a panic crowd crush, 135 killed and 583 injured. Now, in global news, Jair Bolsonaro has been declared the loser in the Brazilian presidential runoff against former president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. So he won 50.83% of the vote. 98% of votes are counted. Bolsonaro won 49.17%. Of course, Bolsonaro was called the far right president because he is against globalism and didn't want Brazil to lock down and didn't want to force the COVID vaccines on his populations. Now, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's former chief strategist, who is appealing his 4-month prison sentence for contempt of Congress for refusing to testify before the January 6 Resurrection Committee. So he has advised Bolsonaro to not concede and say, screw Biden, because Biden's already congratulate Lula, screw the State Department, screw the CIA, fuck them there. Because, well, it is much closer than the Biden-Trump of 2020. I think around only 2 million votes, the difference. Remember in the end that Biden beat Trump by 7 million votes. I see Senator Slayer said Kanye West is a legend exposing the truth. I have got sorry, you shouldn't dead name a Ye, Senator Slayer, because his new name is Ye, so you don't use his previous name because that's the trans rule. You don't dead name trans people and also those who change their names. So he's, according to the finance websites, he is no longer a billionaire, Kanye West. He's self-destructed, and he's denied that he's mentally ill, and claimed he was misdiagnosed by a doctor.
The thing about the red hat that drove me to a point of exhaustion, which was misdiagnosed by I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor, and what hospital, and what media went to. We know I can't say that. It was a Jewish doctor.
Well, you just did say you said you couldn't say, but then you said you said it anyway. So I don't know why you did that sort of performative poetry there, if I may call it. Now, a news item that was, well, a development that was buried by PayPal as Elon Musk was taking back Twitter was the reinstatement PayPal did of their $2,500 US fine. And Rod Lampard has tried to make sense of this. So it was reported by Disclosed TV that PayPal reinstated its $2,500 fine for misinformation. And so, answering concerns, PayPal responded to inquiry from the Daily Wire reassuring customers the company had not reinstated the clause. And so it goes down here that there has been no change to the present user agreement that had already enumerated that $2,500 sanctions can be applied to accounts found in violation of the original acceptable use policy. In other words, the cancel culture mechanism where PayPal can punish customers for wrong thinking or voting a certain way was already in place. And yes, PayPal has been closing customers' accounts for wrong think and stealing their money for years. I remember that years back, they cancelled Blair Cottrell's account and didn't pay him the money that was in his PayPal account. Like when he was his like his account was closed by Westpac. At least they gave him back his money, but they stole PayPal's $1,700 that was still in Blair's account when they closed it. I'm sure, Lady of Charlotte, they stole Patriotic Alternatives account as well, and also they shut your PayPal account, Senator Slayer, as well. So yes, they've been closing accounts for wrong-think misinformation and stealing customers' money for years. Now let's go over to Europe. And so Giorgia Meloni is officially the Prime Minister of Italy, and the unvaccinated in the healthcare system are allowed to resume back their jobs. There's going to be a proper inquiry into the country's COVID-19 response, including the vaccine passport system. And the Russia-Ukraine conflict will drag on into the winter with certainly Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who I am dressed up as. I'm wearing his famous olive green tee that he wears. The reason why I thought that this would be a good Halloween costume, it was suggested to me by Unshackled Fan, Get on the Beers on Telegram, is because Zelensky, he both tricks Western nations into handing over their taxpayers' money over to him, which is a treat. He both tricks and treats there. And so, of course, Zelensky just keeps demanding more and more money, more and more arms there. It's not just, it's like he keeps coming back at the same doors to demand treats while he's tricking Western governments. And now, obviously, a side development of the Russia-Ukraine war is that neutral Sweden and Finland have joined NATO, but there has been an alarming report on the weekend that NATO wants to put nuclear missiles in Finland, which is right next to Russia. That is insanely provocative. And remember, it was the US putting missiles in Turkey in the early 1960s, right on the Soviet Union's doorstep, that triggered them sending the nuclear warheads to Cuba, where we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. Lady of Charlotte says he rang up Rishi to congratulate him, then ask him for more money. The rat. Yes, Rishi Sunak. He's done lots of posts on his Twitter account, him in conversation with various world leaders who've congratulated him on being selected as the new British Prime Minister, the Conservative Party leader. And so we shall see how the polls, if the polls bounce back for the Conservatives, who are more than 40 points behind Labour. I mean, certainly the markets have reacted well to Rishi Sunak being selected as British Prime Minister, because apparently they run Britain now. Now, he's still committed to the green agenda, net zero, and he's also rebanned fracking after Liz Truss unbanned fracking. Now, despite his commitment to the green agenda, some conservatives were pleased that Rishi is not turning up to COP27 in Cairo, Egypt. He wants to focus on he and Jeremy Hunt's updated budget forecast, because Jeremy Hunt, the globalist chancellor, he's continued in that position, and also other people continuing in their roles. Well, Dominic Raab is back as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Justice. There is, yes, Boris and all his supporters are not in Rishi Sunak's cabinet. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, he resigned before he was pushed. Now, what are the alternatives to the Conservative Party? Because it's a first past the post system in the UK. So obviously, when Nigel Farage ran for UKIP in the general election for the House of Commons, he failed. So Nigel Farage has said that he cannot do this on his own. He needs basically a whole team to try and break it's a three-party system between the Conservatives, Labor, and the Liberal Democrats. There is the Reform Party, which used to be the Brexit Party, which is now led by Lawrence Fox. And there is also the Reclaim Party, which is headed by Talk TV personality Richard Tice. So they have had surges in membership since Rishi Sunak was selected as the Conservative Party leader. But we shall see if there is any viable actual conservative nationalist libertarian party that emerges. Now, turning to local news, and as a Halloween, or you could call it as a Halloween gift to Australia, the Albanese government is returning the ISIS brides to Australia, and Alexandra Marshall summed it up perfectly. Just remember, Australia, the unvaccinated were considered too dangerous to be flown home and were left stranded around the world for years. But female ISIS terrorists that joined a violent, intolerant foreign state, Labor wants these girls back ASAP and flew them into Sydney there. So yes, they're being welcomed back in Australia, but don't worry, ASIO and the AFP are going to keep an eye on them and make sure that they don't get up to any mischief once they're back here as well. Now, Netball Australia, because it rejected Gina Rinehart's Hancock prospecting sponsorship of $15 million. Even though it was $11 million in the red, has found a new sponsor. I shouldn't call it a sponsor. It's a Victorian taxpayer-funded bailout. So Dan Andrews has decided to use a Victorian's money to give a $15 million bailout to Netball Australia under the sponsorship of Visit Victoria, because after Dan Andrews locked down Victoria for 18 months in 2020, 2021, he now wants people to come back and visit Victoria. And as a lot of people have been pointing out today, that the Diamonds, they didn't think that Gina Rinehart, they didn't think her business was ethical for them to wear on their jumper, but they're okay with wearing the logo of a state whose governments has been one of the worst human rights abusers of the past 2 years. They're happy to wear that on their jumper there. Now, Dan Andrews, he had a big press conference with netballers today to announce this bailout, and there was an unfortunate medical emergency that happened.
Dollars and cents point of view, though, was it more attractive to you because Victoria's filling that $15 million that you don't have from Hancock prospecting?
Very different partnerships, so cannot be compared in any way, shape or form. They're two very, very different partnerships, and this partnership values the content that we offer. So everything from pathway events through to the elite competition are some of the things. Oh, hang on a minute.
Yes, that poor little girl, and she got medical treatment there, and she's okay now. I wondered if they considered calling an ambulance, because obviously with Ambulance Victoria's a poor performance, imagine if they did need to call an ambulance and it took half an hour, 45 minutes for the ambulance to turn up. I mean, that would have been an even worse PR disaster for Dan there. And yes, I agree with you, Margot. I certainly feel for that kid there. Now, obviously, Victoria's health system has unraveled during Dan's time as premier, and now it was on the news tonight. The youths are back in Brighton. This was on 7 News tonight.
Melbourne's run of violent street crime has continued, with police forced to mount a big operation to end a rampage across 3 Bayside suburbs.
The wanted man is accused of a carjacking, ramming 2 police vehicles, breaking into homes and threatening a woman with a knife before he was finally cornered and arrested in Brighton.
Police swarmed a quiet Brighton East cul-de-sac, desperate to end a crime spree across Bayside suburbs. The wanted man had allegedly been breaking into homes, jumping fences, armed with a knife, threatening people.
I heard a bit of screaming early this morning and this afternoon, and an intruder in next door. And my next door neighbour very bravely and chased him out with literally with a hoe, and prodded him out of the driveway and down the street. And the guy was brandishing a knife, so very, very brave lady.
Steve Walter then came face to face with the intruder.
He just said, "Get the effing hell out of my way." But then I saw the knife in his hand, and so I got out of his way, and he went past my house, shouted at the kids to lock the door.
The chase began 2 hours earlier when police tried to intercept a stolen vehicle in Balaclava. Officers became the target. 2 police cars rammed on Carlisle Street as the thief sped off.
That vehicle then continued on and ventured into Elwood, where it then, as a result of possibly the damage caused to the vehicle, that vehicle was dumped, and the male occupant then got out and, brandishing a knife, committed the carjacking on another vehicle and stole that vehicle. That vehicle was then driven out to the Brighton area.
He continued on to Cluden Street and broke into another home.
That was vacant, luckily, thank God.
It took police nearly an hour to end the siege and take the 44-year-old Melton man into custody.
Everyone deserves to feel safe in their own home, and not have this unwanted violence brought into their life.
Yes, Melbourne is back, baby. Now, obviously in 2020, 2021, you would have seen all those police swarming around, not for an actual criminal, but if someone's mask slipped off around town, that's what would have got the police with a rapid response in 2020, 2021. Now, over in Western Australia, a absolutely horrific alleged murder has happened of a 15-year-old Aboriginal boy, Cassius Turvey. So a Jack Brearley, 21, has been charged with murder and is now facing 2 more aggravated assault and occasionally bodily harm and stealing. So Cassius was allegedly ambushed while walking home from school in the Middle Swan with friends and later died in hospital. These relate to the alleged assault of a 13-year-old boy Cassius was walking home with, the police commissioner Cole Blanche said. So the police commissioner, he's been under fire for saying that his Cassius alleged murder was the result of mistaken identity. So he said that Cassius was the innocent victim of a violent attack. When pressed on the details about whether the attack on Cassius was racially motivated, Blanche would not be drawn, because allegedly the man accused of murder, Jack Brearley, mistook Cassius for a boy that he thought vandalized his car previously. But even if that was the case, that's no justifications for bashing someone and allegedly murdering them. But of course, the SJWs, BLM are hijacking this to claim that this is a sign of racism that still continues. But the system is, our legal system is already underway. A man has been charged. He is the alleged death of Cassis. We've got to say all this because of legal reasons, has shocked the nation, and it's an absolute tragedy. It wouldn't matter if the boy was Aboriginal or white or Asian, whatever. It is horrific, disgusting. It shouldn't have happened. There shouldn't be a grieving family for this boy. But it's just, of course, the politicalization. Well, this is what BLM they've always done: exploit tragedy for racial politics. So that brings me to the end of another Tim's News Explosion. Now, you've probably noticed that these news explosions now go for longer than 30 minutes. They now go around an hour. That's because I've just got to pack so much into the explosion now. But I see that all of you stick around for the hour, which is great. It's always great to have your company and see your feedback in the comments as well. And now, of course, tomorrow is Melbourne Cup Day. I mean, I'm not into the Melbourne Cup horse racing myself, but of course, it's good to see the crowds back out and about at the events in Melbourne. Now, I'll be back on Friday for another Trad Tasman talk with Stephen Berry at the later time of 7 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled YouTube channel. We're able to start at the normal time last Friday night, 6 p.m, but this Friday will definitely have to be 7 p.m. There will be no Wilmsfront this week. Make sure that you check out the unshackled.net for the productions archive and also our written article as well. I know I've presented a lot of horrific and scary news tonight, you know, make sure that you stay sane through all of this is always my message. Stay healthy, stay safe, of course, and try and stay happy as well, because these are crazy times. But as long as we're here helping to fight the information wars, as Alex Jones, pinpointed it from an early time and named his organization InfoWars. It's important for everyone who's wanting to resist globalism, totalitarianism, standing up for freedom and liberty, that they make sure that the truth, real news gets out. So that's it from me tonight, and I will see you on Friday night as well. Good night, everybody, and happy Halloween. I'll say that at the end of the show as well. And I'm not sure if anyone's got any other plans for the rest of the night. I'm going to watch Hocus Pocus 2. The Babylon Bee, not the Bee, said not to watch it because it's not worth your time. Sorry, not the Bee, but now makes me want to watch it and judge for myself if I've wasted my time. So that's on Disney Plus. Sorry, Groomer Plus. So I'm going to be watching that now. Good night, everybody.
Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.